Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Box. My name is Nick. Let's go ahead and take a look right now at Dark Souls, the board game. So you might be wondering why this is prefaced as Dark Souls the board game and not just Dark Souls. Well, this board game here is based off of a trilogy of video games on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I'm a pretty big fan of the video games. I've played through all of them, beat 2 of them, because the 2 selling points of the game is the difficulty, and the game can be really punishing in spots, and the epic boss fights. And this board game right here does a really great job of incorporating both of those aspects into a tabletop formula. But enough conversation about the video game and about how it relates to this board game. Let's go ahead and open up this box and find out how this game works. Now, quick disclaimer before I actually show you all the components. This is a Kickstarter that Steamforged Games put on. I got it back in May. Some of the components, although finished, there are cardboard tokens and counters and all sorts of awesome things in this box. Some of them are going to be upgraded just due to the stretch goals on the Kickstarter. So there'll be more characters, more tile sets, more monsters, different tokens. Some of the cardboard tokens will be metal. So once I get all of that in, I will definitely showcase a lot of what comes in those other waves of goodies. But for right now, this is still a complete game. You can still play it out of the box and it looks great. So let's dive into Dark Souls the board game right now. So here is one of the 4 characters that you can select in Dark Souls. This one is the Herald. You also have the Knight, the Warrior, and the Assassin. So right here are your equipment slots. You can see a spot for your armor, your left and your right hand on your character. Right here we have your strength, dexterity, intelligence, and faith stats. You can upgrade these throughout the game. You'll need to level up your character and upgrade them to get more powerful weapons and to equip more powerful armor. Up in the top corner here is the heroic action that this character has. Everyone has a different special ability. And what the Herald can do is actually gain 2 stamina for him and anyone else in the party. What you use stamina for is moving around the game board and doing other sorts of actions, attacking stronger. So it's a really, really important stat. Next to these stamina cubes, which are black, here is these red damage cubes. So when you take hits from enemies, you'll actually fill up this bar here with those red cubes. If you fill your entire bar with them, not only do you die, but everyone in your party also automatically loses and you'll have to reset back at your home base, which is called the bonfire, which we'll take a look at in just a second. Now there are ways to gain more stamina and clear damage when you do battle, which we will get into in just a moment, but suffice to say, this bar right here is extremely important in Dark Souls, the board game. Now there's just a few things left on the character board I wanted to show off. As you can see, there's tokens, one here, here, up here, and over here. This token up here is your heroic action token, and what you do is if you want to use the heroic action in your character, you flip it to the gray outside, and then you can use your ability right there. This token over here is used for when you want to re-roll a die during combat. Say you needed 1 extra hit, you can go ahead and flip your luck token over and re-roll one of the die. This token right here is your Estus flask, and what you do is you drink what's inside of it, flip it over, and then you can clear out all of the stamina and all of the health that you've accumulated in your condition bar. And what this token right here is for, this is an Ember. You don't start the game with one of these, you find them along the way. But what you use them for is if you suffer more than 3 damage, you can use the Ember and then reduce all of the damage down to just 1. There are a lot of things that I could be showing off in this game, but I want to keep as much secretive as possible just so you can discover it along your playthroughs. One of the things I will show you is the starting equipment for the Herald. So this is the armor for the Herald. The symbol right here is showing what character it goes to. This symbol below that shows where it goes on the character map. This is an armor piece. And then right here is the set symbol. There's a lot of different expansions planned and more content coming, so they're just trying to keep everything organized for you. This icon right here shows the range necessary. Now, if it was a weapon, say this spear here, you could see it has a range of 1. Since it's armor, you don't have to worry about that. The box below shows the requirements necessary to use the item. So you need a strength of 10 or higher, you don't need any dexterity or any intelligence, but you do need 10 faith or higher to equip the armor. And the spots below show the block, resist, dodge, and upgrade slots of the item. This piece of armor gives you 1 black die to use in blocking. You can also try to dodge an attack, which is this third symbol right here. And what you do is you'll spend a stamina to roll the dice to see if you can completely dodge the attack coming towards you. Now, if you don't complete the roll successfully, you take all of the damage and still move. And the 0 here shows that there are no upgrade slots available on that armor. As you proceed through the game, you will get better armor, better shields, and you can attach things to them, as well as weapons. You can make your sword more powerful or have a fire effect attached to it. So now that we looked at armor, I just want to show off the weapon that the Herald uses. This is the spear. You can see the range of 1, so you have to be within at least 1 space to hit your target. Here are the requirements. You can see it's a starting weapon, so it has no dexterity, intelligence, faith, or strength requirements. Over here you can see this icon says that it's for the Herald. You can see that it's a one-handed weapon. You can put it in either slot, either left or right on your character card. Now you can't use this weapon to block, resist, or dodge, and there aren't any upgrade slots on it. And this box right here shows how many dice you're going to roll and if you need to utilize any stamina to accomplish attacks. So the basic attack, you can see there's a 0 stamina required, and you roll 1 black dice. And you might notice this little symbol right here and right here. Now that one means that you can't be at range 0. You can't be right on top of your opponent because of the length of the spear. You have to be 1 space away when you do your attacks. And if you wanted to use 3 stamina, as you can see right there, you can roll this black die and then you add 1 to the result. So if I rolled 2, I would add the 1 and get an attack of 3. However, I would have to add 3 black cubes into my condition bar. So that's it for the player board. Let's go ahead and move on to your home base, which is called the bonfire. It's where you can level up your character, purchase new armor and weapons, and trade out gear with other members of your party. This spot right here is where you put the souls, and souls is the currency of the game. You'll use them to upgrade your character and your items, so they're really, really important. Now, if you're starting out in a 2, 3, or 4 player game, you don't get any to start with. However, if you're playing solo, they actually give you 16 souls to start the game, so you can get a little bit of a head start on leveling up your character. And so in this example, we have the Herald going out alone. We'll go ahead and put 16 soul tokens in the cache. This spot right here is your treasure deck. There are 60 common treasures that you'll find throughout the game in this stack right here. You'll also shuffle in the special cards of whatever classes you're playing with. And since I'm playing with the Herald, we'll go ahead and put these cards, which have the Herald symbol attached to them, in the deck as well and shuffle them up. And this spot right here is for your inventory. Any items that you get along the way that you don't want to or can't use, you can hold in that spot. And this is where you can trade your items as well. If you've played the video game before, you're very familiar with this character here. This is the blacksmith, Andre. Talking with him will allow you to upgrade your armor and your weapons. If you want to level up your character and increase the strength, dexterity, intelligence, and or faith, you'll talk to the firekeeper right here. There is a cost of 2 souls to go from your base to tier 1, 4 souls to go from tier 1 to tier 2, and 8 souls to go from tier 2 to tier 3. Now, the last thing to take note of on the bonfire tile is the bonfire token itself, which is right here. What you use this bonfire for is to flip any Estus, heroic action, or luck tokens that you've used on your character card back to the face up side. Now, the only downside to doing that is any encounters that you've already completed, you'll then have to reset. And I'll get into that in just a moment. Now, under normal setup rules, you will take 6 of the regular tiles like this one here and shuffle them up. You'll take 4 of them and lay them out around the bonfire. The next thing you need to figure out is what boss you're going to fight. You can take the boss cards, shuffle them up, and randomly select one, or if you like, you can select the one that you want to go after. So here's the Titanite Demon with the card that accompanies him, and on the bottom here, you'll see a 1, 3, and a 0. And what that's for is the encounter levels that you'll need. So you'll grab 1 card from the level 1 stack and 3 cards from the level 2 stack. And then you don't need any cards from the level 3 stack. There's a lot of other stuff on the card that I want to go through, but we'll wait until we get to the actual Titanite Demon to explain all of the icons on his card. So now that you have your encounter cards, what you'll do is you'll place the lowest level ones closest to the bonfire and the more difficult ones on the way to the boss. Since we only have one level 1 card, it'll be the one that I'll demo for you. And you can see here on the card that it's the Ash Gardens. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to find all the symbols on the left-hand side on the actual tile, and then find the enemies that correspond with them. The card's telling us that we need 1 Silver Knight Great Bowman and 1 Crossbow Hollow. We'll put the Great Bowman right here because the symbol on the tile matches the symbol on the card, and then we'll put the Bowman on this symbol back here. The next symbol is telling us to put a barrel on the little star icon right there. All barrels do is slow you down. You can go through them, but they cost 1 stamina to go onto that node. So if you spend the stamina, you can then flip it over to the broken side to know that you can then freely pass through that node in the future. There is one more symbol right here at the bottom, but there's nothing that actually goes to it, so we'll leave this right here blank. One of the reasons Dark Souls is a great board game is you don't need anyone to play as the bad guys, and it really fits thematically and gameplay mechanic-wise with how the video game works. You'll have this card here for each of the bad guys, and it lays out the order and the method in which they attack. One thing I haven't talked about was the aggro token. If you're playing with 2, 3, or 4 players, you'll pass it around for each encounter tile that you guys enter upon. Once you complete or are killed off from that tile, you then pass the token to the next player. The first thing we'll look at is the enemy movement, which is right here. Kind of looks like a D-pad on a controller. What it's saying for the Crossbow Hollow is that it's going to move 1 space away from the character who has the aggro token. This number up here, which is a 2 for this crossbow character, is the threat level, or the order in which they activate. Characters with a higher number will activate before characters with a low number. So in the demo scenario, the Silver Knight is a 3, while the Crossbow Hollow is a 2, meaning the Silver Knight will be going first. This space right here shows the range at which the enemy is attacking you at. The Crossbow Hollow and the Silver Knight Great Bowman both have a range of infinite because they're using ranged weapons. This number to the left is the block, and the one to the right is the resist value that the character has. So if you're attacking with a 3, this character automatically blocks 1 of the damage. If you're using a magical attack, the Crossbow Hollow can't block any of the damage. This space over here shows the difficulty that it takes to dodge the character's attacks. The Crossbow Hollow has a difficulty of just 1, meaning you have to get 1 or more successes to successfully dodge the attack. So on the Herald's armor I showed off earlier, he gets to roll 1 of these green die. You can see there are successes as well as failures. The number up here is the starting health that the character has. This hollow has a health of 1, so just 1 successful hit will kill it off. The last thing to talk about is this spot right here, which is one of the more important ones. It's the damage that the character does and who he does it to. So if you remember earlier, we talked about the skull, meaning the aggro token, or in a single player game, it's always going to be your character. This Crossbow Hollow will inflict 3 magical damage upon your character. You can look at this card here and see the Silver Knight Great Bowman will inflict physical damage. And he will do it first. So he'll attack and then move, where the Crossbow Hollow moves then attacks. So if we were to simulate combat, the Silver Knight Great Bowman would go first because his threat level is 3, while the Hollow's is 2. The first thing that he does is attack for 4. Since I'm the only player, it's going to be directed at me, and I have 2 choices. I can roll this green die and attempt to dodge and therefore take no damage by spending 1 black stamina cube, or I can roll this black die here and try to block at most 2 of the 4 damage. I'm gonna choose to be risky and go for the dodge, so I'll put 1 stamina in the condition box and then roll the green die. Luckily, I was successful and rolled over here, avoiding all of the damage. The Great Bowman is now going to move 1 space away from me. Now that the enemy is gone, it's my turn, and the first thing you get to do on your turn is remove up to 2 stamina cubes. I decided to go with the dodge on the Silver Knight Great Bowman's attack because I knew on my turn I would remove the dodge cube that I had added to my condition bar. The next thing I need to do is close the gap on the enemies. You can spend a stamina point to move an additional node, and you can do that as many times throughout your turn as long as you have space in your condition bar to add stamina tokens to. You'll remember on the spear card earlier, I can roll 1 black die for no stamina, or spend 3 stamina to roll a black die and then add 1 to the result. I know that the crossbow has 1 damage he can block because of his block value right there. So what I'll do is take 3 cubes of stamina and roll 1 black die and add 1 to the result, hoping that I roll at least a 1 to kill off this enemy. So an excellent result. I hit him for 3, he blocks 1, he only has 1 hit point, therefore this character is killed off. Play will continue until one of 2 things happens. Either I'm successful and defeat the knight, or I take more damage than my condition bar has spaces and I lose. If you are successful, you add 2 souls to your cache, so I would go from 16 to 18. If you're playing with friends, you'll add 2 additional souls for each player at the game. Now play will continue as you go from tile to tile, leveling up, getting better weapons and gear, and if you wish, going back to the bonfire to reset the entire board and doing the encounters again. You don't have to complete all of the encounters to go to the boss tile, but it certainly helps to have the best gear and the best progression on your character. Let's go ahead and fast forward to the boss fight against the Titanite Demon versus my Herald. And here we have the Titanite Demon's character card. You'll see in the top corner, there's the health, which is 22 that he starts with, and they included this counter with the Titanite Demon name on it, so you can track his hit points. Now I have no issue whatsoever with the counter itself, it works perfectly fine, but my friends over at Nighthawk Counters sent over some custom ones that I can use, like this one here, which I think is really appropriate for a boss fight. I will be doing a giveaway for this and the other counters that they sent over, so stay tuned for more details on that. And if you are interested in backing their Kickstarter page, go ahead and go over to Nighthawk Counters on Instagram for more information. I'll put a link below in the description as well. You'll see the block and resist values right here, as well as a special ability that the boss has. And you might have noticed that there's no movement or attack values on the card. That's where these 2 symbols here and here come into play. This number right here represents the amount of cards that the demon will have to move and attack with, and this number here, which is 10, means that if the demon falls below 10 hit points, you'll add extra cards to his behavior deck. So you have 2 different types of cards in a boss's deck. You'll have the regular ones, and then this symbol for the heat up cards. So since we're not going to build that deck, we'll take those off the board, but we do need to add 4 cards to his behavior deck. What you do is you take the cards, shuffle them up, and randomly select the number which is 4 for him. This will be how he attacks and moves. So on his turn, you'll flip the card over, and he'll perform a vicious swing. You'll go through all of the different attacks that the boss does along the way, and once you go to the last card, you'll then grab the deck, don't shuffle, and then put them back together. So once you make it through 4 moves, you'll know the order in which the demon's attacking you. And again, once you reach the heat up point and get him below 10 hit points, you'll randomly select one of the heat up cards to put into the deck, and that's when you'll shuffle up the entire boss deck. So now, not only will he have a new move you don't know, but the order is completely different. The last thing to take note of is these lines at the base of the miniature. What these are for is the direction in which the boss is facing. So the first card we have in the boss's behavior deck is Vicious Swing with a range of 1, a dodge difficulty of 1, and 5 damage points. And what you'll do is you'll go left to right, activating all of the boss's movements and attacks. The first thing he does is this, which is to actually turn 180 degrees. The boss then attacks for 5 damage, and there's a small symbol right here notating that he's going to attack in a cone. If the boss hadn't turned, what he would be attacking with is you line up the nodes with the boss's base, and all of the nodes inside of that are then hit with 5 damage. Luckily he turned first before he did so. The first thing I should do on my turn is look at this symbol on the last card the boss played. It has 3 green arrows, front, back, and on the right side. There's a red arrow on this left side, which means I get to roll 1 extra black die when attacking. I don't want to give away too much more of what the boss encounters are like because it's one of the best parts of the game. So I'm not going to show off any more cards or go over any other movements that the bosses do or any of the attacks they perform. But I will say that at the end of the battle, one of two things occur. Either you're successful and you've defeated the boss, or you lose and you have to go back to the bonfire and start over. And that's where you can see the difficulty of the game comes from. If I get this boss down to 5 or 6 hit points and I'm killed off, I have to go back to the bonfire, reset all of the 4 tiles, and then fight my way back to the boss again. You can even ramp up the fun and the difficulty by playing on a campaign mode, which allows you to go through 3 different chapters where you face specific monsters in specific locations. So I'm going to clean up the board and come back with my final thoughts. If you've been paying at least a little bit of attention, you can tell that I like this game a lot. The Dark Souls world, the theme, all that medieval gothic that happens in the video games is translated perfectly into this board game, in my opinion. But if you take that away, if you just look at it as a kind of a light RPG tabletop game, I enjoy it for 3 reasons. You can play it 100% solo. You don't lose any functionality. That's awesome. It's kind of rare to find a game that's this good by yourself. The second reason is the miniatures. They're huge, they're detailed, they're really well done. Steamforged took their time and they kept working at it until they got it right. And you can tell if you look at pictures of the video game characters, the monsters, the bosses, they look exactly like it in this game. And they did such a great job. They're gonna be a lot of fun to paint. I can't wait to start painting these figures. And the third reason why I really enjoyed this game and highly recommend it is the replayability. You can play through the same campaign of sorts where you're fighting the same boss at the end, and the encounters are different. Some of the characters you're gonna find that you're gonna fight are different monsters, the way that the bosses play out, because they give you more cards than you'll actually utilize in the boss fight. So you can play it by yourself, and then you can have a couple buddies come over, you guys can go through it as well, and although you might know some of the moves that the boss is gonna do, you don't know how it's gonna come out, in what order. So replayability, the fact that this game is great solo or with your friends, and the artwork, the card set, the miniature design, it's outstanding. I can't recommend this game enough. It's one of my favorites. I knew when I saw it on Kickstarter I wanted to back it, and when it came in I couldn't wait to open it, and I was blown away. So to everyone at Steamforged Games, you guys did an awesome job with this game. I hope y'all really enjoyed looking at it, tearing it apart, and figuring out if this game was gonna be right for you. That is all the time that I have on this episode. Thank you so much for watching. For Beyond the Box, my name is Nick. Have a great rest of your day.